Greetings, I am Jeremy Ye, number 27 from Class 3C. Today I'll be talking about a historical movie set during the Cold War. This is a brief review of 13 Days. It is the year 1962, and a U-2 spy plane had just sent back aerial pictures of Cuba, revealing that the Soviet Union is deploying missiles there. Then President John F. Kennedy gathered his advisors to discuss a plan to prevent these missiles from becoming operational. Kennedy opposed an invasion as it might lead to a world war. Afterwards, he and his team figured out a naval quarantine which allowed basic necessities but not military equipment would be the next best solution, as a blockade as an act of war. They then continued sending planes to Cuba to gather intel, but Kenny, one of Kennedy's main advisors, asked the pilots to not report if they were shot at, as it might trigger the rules of engagement. The USSR then attempted to communicate with the United States via their emissary, stating that they are willing to remove the missiles if the US promises to never invade Cuba. Then they sent a second message, requesting the US to also pull its missiles from Turkey. The Kennedy administration decided it is best to only respond to the former one. Following that, a U-2 plane was shot down in Cuba, killing the pilot. Albeit that everyone in the conference room decided it was time for invasion, Kennedy insisted on one last attempt at diplomacy, sending his brother to negotiate. Thankfully, the negotiation was successful, with the USSR agreeing to remove all missiles from Cuba and that the US will remove theirs from Turkey 6 months from then. Now, let us dive into some criticisms I have for this film. The first one is regarding a historical inaccuracy. The movie's main protagonist, Kenny O'Donnell, was not supposed to even have a role in the entire Cuban Missile Crisis. According to an interview with former Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, Kenny was only a political appointment secretary to the president. Although yes, he was a good friend with President Kennedy, he was not the main facilitator to the solving of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Secondly, the film left out a major segment to the Cuban Missile Crisis. On the same day when the U-2 plane was shot down in Cuba, there was also a nuclear-armed Soviet submarine around the waters. It was hit by a depth charge by the US, who was trying to signal it to resurface. The commanders thought the war had begun and prepared to launch nuclear torpedoes. This decision had to be made with the consent of 3 officers, but one of which objected in the end. This was a crucial moment in the missile crisis as it prevented a global catastrophe. However, this was not mentioned in the film. In conclusion, the movie is very realistic as it demonstrates the internal struggles between government officials, including even the president and military generals. The stark contrast between the attitudes towards the missile crisis, particularly the more aggressive elder advisors and the more peaceful and diplomatic ones, also shows the humanistic side of politics. Although there were a few inaccuracies here and there, as well as some subtle hints of propaganda by demonizing the USSR as being the sole aggressor, while the US also had nuclear arsenal deployed in Turkey and Italy at that time, the film was generally very historically accurate. Thank you very much.